Come on.
I'm gonna go for a drive.
Okay. All right. Bye. Oh, okay. There we go. Laura, now it says you're on. For some reason, your comment showed up, and then it said that you joined. Okay, so I just invited you to join. There we go.
Of course, every time I text it won't send the request, and then I send it, the request pops up right afterward.
Yeah, well, it didn't send the request. It just said your message sent, and then it said that you joined, which, you couldn't join the live after commenting. That's not how that works, but
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know. It always does that, and I don't know why it does that. It upsets me.
Yeah. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. I'm just like dealing with certain things for the past few days, so I'm a bit like
Yeah,
anxious.
I understand that. How's the baby brother?
He's fine. He's just really hungry all the time. So he
Yeah.
eats a lot. And he just like sleeps and goes to the bathroom. And like, yeah, he likes it when I hold him though, because like
Oh.
I've had, well, like because he has like colic, so he gets like different like gas pains, and he has like
Yeah.
trouble like with that. So when I hold him and I pat his back, he just like stops like crying.
Oh.
Unless he's just like in a bad mood, then he won't stop crying.
Oh
And it's
Lord.
so sad. A few weeks ago, well, maybe like a couple or like 3 weeks ago, he actually started crying like real tears. Because for a while, whenever he would like cry, it wouldn't be like with tears. It would just be like you'd see that he's upset. But then now he's like tears. It's so sad. It's
Poor
so
buddy.
sad. And I'm like, oh.
Poor
But
baby.
I
I
know.
miss having babies around. I love babies. I love babies, but then they get older and I don't appreciate that.
Stop growing.
I know. I just want
Yeah.
them to be green forever.
Yeah.
Um,
He's just going. He also is like having growing pains because he's
mhm.
growing pretty quickly. Like he was really small when he was born. Like he was so tiny. He wasn't like pre or anything. He actually had to come out earlier. But yeah, I don't know. He was just very like little, even though he was a healthy baby. And then he
Mhm.
just started growing. Now he's like heavy and all that other crap. And he just has growing pains. I mean, he is going to be very tall. I mean, my stepdad, Sherrard, is like 6'5". So,
Oh wow.
yes, Sladen is going to be very tall, my little brother. But yeah. How have you been?
I've been real stressed,
Yeah.
per usual. Just like about nothing. Like I make up all of these things to be stressed about that like I don't need to be stressed about. I make big to-do lists,
Yeah.
which sometimes helps, and then sometimes it just makes it really like a lot worse. And
Yeah.
the thing, yeah, I'm just like making all of these, things that could be fun into these like I have to do all of these things and just like adding on to it, and I just agree to anything if anybody asks me to do anything, I'm like, yeah. So it just like adds on and on and on, and
Yeah.
it's just really difficult.
Yeah.
Lots of bunny drama last night. one of
Oh
uh,
no.
one of one of my bunnies dug a tunnel. Well, not exactly sure what
A
happened, but
tunnel.
one dug a tunnel and another dug a tunnel, like two different cages into our neighbor's yard. and then so I had to we had to like sort that out in
Oh
the
my
night.
god.
Yeah. And then this morning, I think it was my fault, but I'm not exactly sure. But the gate was to their coop was left open, and so they were all
Oh
over the
god.
like the well, most of them stayed in the little like they have their coop and then they have a gated area around so that they can
Yeah.
play. Um, and they most of them stayed in there, but their mom managed to get out, and it's just so much drama. There's just always something, but at least there's been much worse drama, like when one of our bunnies dug a giant tunnel and then had a bunch of babies under there. She had
Oh.
babies with the boy bunny through the fence, like through multiple layers of chicken wire. Disgusting.
Oh
So
my
lots
god.
of rabbit drama,
Scandalous.
which adds to the stress, but yeah, for the most part, doing okay.
That's good.
Um, yeah. And yeah, I have okay, so should I introduce the theme for today?
Why not?
Okay. So, uh,
Sorry.
today we are going to be talking about stigma and shame. Um,
Ooh, shame.
yeah, I added that one. Stigma was Melora's idea, and I added shame because,
I'm liking this
you
by
know,
the
they go hand in
second.
hand. They're
The
kind of
millisecond.
similar, but kind of different.
Yeah.
And, but I think those differences are important because I think that, you know, I think stigma is more, I think in my opinion, like a little bit of shame is good. You know? Like
Yeah.
knowing like right from wrong, knowing that if you do something bad, you should feel a little bad. And but having shame about the right things, you know? And I
Yeah.
think stigma on the other hand, I think stigma in my opinion, I think is almost always bad. But
No, it is.
there's
Yeah, I was sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's actually really funny because like I'm an idiot and I was like, but aren't stereotypes and stigmas like the same thing? And my mom was like, no, they're not the same thing, even though they're interrelated. And I was like, God, I was like, why? And then she just kept explaining to me. I was like, I do not understand the difference. They sound exactly the same. So I looked it up. And so like of course like the definition is like the regular definition as per Oxford or Lexica or whatever is a mark of disgrace as associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. A
Yeah.
stereotype is specifically like an oversimplified categorization of someone or something.
Hmm.
And with stigmas, they're always negative. And they're like, and I believe that, like, yeah, so they're always negative. With stereotypes, it can be either or. Like,
Hmm.
they can be bad or like, but they can be like, not that they're, I mean, stereotypes aren't great, but like, in some of them, like they're not. I don't know. They're not. They're like. I guess like I would say like neutral, if that makes sense. Because I'm not gonna call stereotypes good. Like they're like neutral or like not great because they are stereotypes. But
Well, I think it
yeah.
depends on things like I think a stereotype about a marginalized group is always bad because even
Well,
the
yeah.
ones that seem positive, like for instance, like there's stereotypes about Asian people being, you know, good at math. So like
No, yeah, yeah.
being good at math sounds like a good thing, but if you're being stereotyped with that, then that's still like a bad thing and it can have detrimental effects because like people can expect you to do things that you just can't do.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's exactly what I mean. Like, I
Right.
feel like a situation like that or like a stereotype like that is like neutral. Like, it's not great, but it's also not like I don't know. Like in some people's eyes, I guess it's not like you said. Like whenever that type well, whenever a stereotype like that is put out, like people think that you'll like this thing because you are of a specific
Right.
race, or like you can do something because you're this. When
Yeah.
it's like some might be able to, but not all, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's always, and usually that type of stereotype that like all Asians are great at math, that's almost always portrayed in like shows and
Hmm.
movies. Like, or, and so, but yeah, I was looking, but yeah, mostly, yeah, but stigmas are always negative, apparently. So yeah, and each one, I guess stereotypes and stigma go hand in hand, I should
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
I think one example of how they go hand in hand is like I know a lot of people in the queer community and I mean, I'm not going to speak too much on like racial minorities because I'm not part of one, but I've also known people in racial minorities who have done this, but I'll speak to my experience as a queer person, you know, um, is that people will feel uncomfortable uh, being because they have their own stigma and shame about being queer. Helena.
Yeah.
She just, oh my God, she loves to put her butthole out to the camera. It's inappropriate, Helena. Um, because people because
Okay.
people have stigma and shame around their sexuality, their gender, their whatever,
Yeah.
they will distance themselves from stereotypes and be like, well, I'm not one of those, feminine gay guys. I'm just like other guys.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, okay, well, some of us are all of the stereotypes, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Like that's a thing that I find frustrating a lot is because people will along with that, people will get frustrated about media that shows queer people who are stereotypical, and they'll be like, they're using all these stereotypes. I'm like, okay, well, some people are like that.
Yeah.
It's like there's. I think that that's where the stigma and stereotypes thing goes hand in hand. I think that when that getting rid of the stigma and allowing people to exist instead of being like, well, you know, most
Hmm.
gay people aren't like that. Instead, being like, yeah, some gay people are like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like getting rid of the stigma and getting rid of. I think it's also like I don't know. It's all about generalizations and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like stereotypes, like I said, like they're like oversimplified categorizations of like a group of
Right.
people or like something or like a person or something in general. Like the stereotype that like for example that like all black people are lazy. Not
Mhm.
true, obviously. But like from that can be born like stigma can be born from that stereotype. Like, oh, like
Right.
because black people are lazy, they can't do this. They can't do that. They won't
Yeah.
be able to do this. Like that's negative. That's a negative like assumption that is a stigma essentially born from that stereotype that black people are lazy, which again, not true.
Yeah. It
Just to
also
be
it.
clear to our viewers, it is not true, obviously.
I
But
think it's
yeah.
it's it's also important. Like I think that part of that is like there's so many things that because of stigma and shame that we're not able to do like that like for instance like what you were saying about the stereotype of black people being lazy like I could make a joke about being lazy and it would be perceived differently than a black person making the same joke like
Mhm.
and I think a good example of that is like with um with body shaming. So like when people talk about like I could make a joke about eating a bunch of food and it would be like ha ha ha, right? But if a
Mhm.
fat person was like made a joke about eating a bunch of food, people would be like, it's like all this weird context stuff.
Yeah. And there's another stigma that fat is bad
Hmm.
in most people's eyes. Like really you can find them anywhere. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so many. This is why I get really annoyed with like stereotypes and stigmas, because then I'm like, God, the difference. I'm like, how will I know? Like, I get like the difference in definition, but like in examples.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
well, I think stigma is
Yeah,
what makes the stereotypes bad. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. There's
Because
just
the
yeah,
stereotypes are just traits that people generalize onto a whole group of people, but the stigma around those is what makes it damaging.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, look at these
And
tiny little frames. Sorry,
oh, those are so cute.
tiny little.
Oh my goodness, they're so small. Goodness,
Yes,
they're
I'm
so
sorry, I totally
cute.
interrupted you.
No, you're totally fine. That was a very I love to see it. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking a lot about like different things today because I was like, oh, like different whatever and
Mhm.
a lot of the times when there's like a negative stigma, which actually I'm not gonna say negative stigma, that's kind of like an oxymoron. Same thing when a stigma like is like I don't know put out there about like a specific group of people, for example, a lot of the times those stigmata like cause people to like hide like conditions that they have, or like like especially like for example like around like mental illness or different disabilities and disorders, for
Mhm.
example, like a lot of the times whenever like certain stigmas around that are put out there and they know that about themselves, like that's being like like they're being portrayed in a specific way, a lot
Right.
of the times people will hide those conditions because
Yeah.
they don't want to like be stigmatized essentially by like healthcare professionals or like people, and then they don't necessarily get like the help that they need, and that's not okay, that's not good. So they can
Yeah.
be, but yeah, like stigmas can be very damaging along with stereotypes and all that other type of stuff. So
Well,
yeah.
yeah, it really does, kill people. Like, I mean, toxic masculinity, for instance, like ends up killing people because, I think that, hold on, let me fact check this really fast to make sure I'm getting the information right. Um, but content warning, suicide, um, uh, I think that, um, yep, suicide has become the second leading cause of death among teenagers, and there's something about, um, um, yeah, about, you know, men or young men being more likely to, and, veterans, and
Mhm.
that's, very obviously correlated to toxic masculinity and like this idea of just, doing it yourself and like
Yeah.
there's not nobody, it's not, not showing your emotions and
Yeah.
all that business. And yeah, you know, if we did a better job of just destigmatizing all of these things,
Yeah.
then
Or that you don't need help either, that you can do it all on your own, which is basically what you
yeah,
said. So, like, yeah,
yeah,
I get that a lot with like my anxiety because my grandma is very hardcore Christian and believes that God will make all my problems go away. She's
yeah,
actually told me multiple times to pray when I've felt like been in like a really bad place. And I
yeah,
feel like not like hating on like I'm just specifically like my grandmother is like a very hardcore like Christian. So like but yeah, so I think that like stuff like that, for example, is like it's not healthy to like it's really just toxic positivity essentially. Like, oh, like be on
Yeah.
your own, do it by yourself, blah blah blah, like you'll be fine. It's all in your head, blah blah blah. I'm like, yes,
I
yes, it is all in my head. It is all
yes.
there. It's all in
Uh-huh.
my head.
Which is like your own brain
It's
can't
overcrowded.
do your like fix your own brain. Like that doesn't um
Yeah.
it's yeah, there's a lot of that weird Christianity stuff that I find like I mean, if you go to any treatment center, mental hospital, anything like that, there's Bibles like just sitting around because that's like it's so weird to me. Like there's this weird like God will save you like just I mean it's the same thing with like sin, like talking like just putting all of that on an outside source is so dangerous. Like putting it all on this thing above you like to sort it out for you is just so like
Yeah.
bonkers to me that's
Yeah. Don't they even have like ordained priests come in and read you like your last rites or something like that before
uh,
you die if you want to? I find that so odd. I mean, like, of course, like, do what you want to do, but like, why is that like a customary thing? Like,
there's lots of strange
I don't know.
I don't
Like, it's just so odd. But
there's
yeah,
yeah. There's also what was I gonna say? Um what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Uh, trying to remember.
it's okay. Just
Okay,
need to think.
Christianity.
Think.
Oh, I remember now. Another thing I was gonna say was that a lot of the time when people are struggling with mental illness, people around them will, suggest that they convert to Christianity, or if they are already Christian, that they, go deeper into that. And it's really dangerous because a lot of the time that stuff is recommended to people who already have delusions,
Yeah.
already have, and God stuff is so common in people with mental illnesses. Like people thinking that angels are talking to them, people, and like a lot of the time, Christian people will encourage that. These people will say that they hear voices, and other Christian people will be like, "Oh, so angels," and then it just like they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah," and then it just
Yeah.
their mental illness goes untreated
Yeah.
because other people around them are like, "You are holy. You can speak to angels. You can," and it's
Yeah.
like,
It's
uh,
just it's just hilarious how God is almost like a prescribed medication in some ways
yeah.
because like literally the only reason why, not to offend anybody on here, but like the only reason why certain people like tell those who have like mental illnesses or like disorders to like actually find faith or believe in God, it's only because they themselves don't want to have to deal with you because
Yeah.
they think it's too much. So of course God will help, the all powerful, omnipotent, like, and
I
then just
mean,
like you said, like they encourage different, like like whenever people are like talking to like their own like delusions, for example, and like certain people encourage that because like it'll be like angels or God. But of course, when it's something else, then it's like no, 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 no. If you're not talking to angels, then no, it's not. No, no, no,
if you're
no.
not talking to angels, then you're talking to the devil. And if you're
Yeah,
talking to the
and
devil,
you have a
then
problem.
and then,
Yeah.
but we're gonna treat it with more God.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, yeah, it's just interesting to me that God is like a prescribed medication in a sense, just because others don't want to deal with like, the issue that you have or like the
Well,
disorder that you have.
it adds more to the stigma around mental illness because it's this idea that if you're mental health is not good, that there is some that you're not godly enough, you're not pure enough, you're not holy enough. It's more and
Or
more
you're not
damaging because
right. You're not right.
right
You're like an
that
abomination. Yeah.
that it's
Like,
not that it's not that there's something wrong with how you it's not a problem with your brain, it is a problem with you as a person, it is a problem with your connection to God. It's so damaging, and it just, I mean, honestly, like I have I was I was about to be like, well, I have Christian friends, and then I was like, right. That's not really um like I I love a lot of people who are Christian, and I respect Christianity, and I don't necessarily not believe in God. Like I'm open to the idea, and there's I'm open to all of these things, but as an organized religion, Christianity has done a lot of damage to a lot of groups and caused a lot of stigma. And I know lots of Christian people who are well aware of that. And my problem is not with the core beliefs, because the core beliefs are all are have very good intentions. They're, taking care of each other and all all of that, taking care of
yeah.
your neighbors, taking care of yourself, taking care of things, taking care of the environment, taking care of, but that's not
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is organized religion and the way that people use it to their benefit, because oh my God, your hair's different now.
Yeah, sorry. I have a
You're fine.
routine, like putting it up and down.
And it's just
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Mm-mm. No, no. Yeah.
people just use it for all the wrong reasons, and then I mean it's and next not next week, but the week after that, I'll go more into this whole Christianity thing, because I got a whole thing planned, but um
Oh, if we do talk about that, I can't wait to share
it's
how
it's
it's affected me.
I have I have a
Shocking, I know.
crazy I
Shocking.
went into this crazy little world. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
Yeah.
crazy. We're gonna
There's
laugh, we're gonna
yeah,
cry, we're not
on
gonna do
that
any of those
side
things.
note, it's just I was reading something like a few weeks ago on Instagram about church trauma. Mind you, there were
Oh yeah.
three different threads for
Yeah.
the same on the same exact account, like three different threads with like 10 slides each. I was like, really? There are 30 things that what? And I was shocked because I was like, wow, I relate to so many of these.
Hmm.
And I'm like, and it wasn't even
Yeah.
from my own mother. It's just from my grandma and my papa. But like, yeah. But
Oh yeah.
anyways, back to stigma.
Yeah, my grandma doesn't even go to church, but when I was little, I was not allowed to say God in front of her. I wasn't allowed to say dang, because dang was too close to damn.
I mean, yeah. Anytime I say like, "Oh my God," my grandma is always like, "Do not say
Oh,
the Lord's name in
yeah.
vain." And I'm like, for a long time, I thought I would get like smited. Like I actually believe, like when I was little, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna get struck. I'm gonna get struck."
Scary. It is
Like,
scary.
oh my
And
God.
like I grew up thinking that she was like this super Christian, whatever, whatever, and she would talk about God all the time, and then I found out she doesn't even go to church.
Oh my
Like she doesn't do
God.
any, I don't know. I mean,
The church stealing money
but
from
she
congregants.
she
Disgusting.
also told me once, both her and my grandpa told me I should go live on an Amish farm.
Hold up. What?
Yeah, and this wasn't like that long ago. Like I already looked
Oh.
like this.
Oh. Oh God.
I'm like, I'm past that line, Grandma. There's no turning back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, back on track. Okay, so yeah, I was reading about stigma, and there's three main types, and there's
Oh, I saw
mental,
that. Yeah, yeah, there's
Mhm.
like one on like yeah, but you can go into detail about that. Yeah.
No, I don't have much to say, just that there's three types. There's mental, physical, and identity. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like we were saying, pretty much all not good, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I
I mean, I guess
ooh,
if your identity is something bad, like a Nazi or a pedophile or something like that, but they don't seem to be very. I mean, I guess there's stigma, but they're not. See, there's stigma, but there isn't shame. They're not ashamed, and they should
yeah.
be. And that was another thing I was going to talk about is how shame is important and how we need to use it for our benefit because people are not ashamed anymore of being racist, of being awful things.
Yeah. And it's just like
And they
interesting
should be.
because like
Oh,
yeah, that whole like thing when I was reading about that, first off, to go on your little Nazi note, it's hilarious how people, and I'm being sarcastic, of course, not actually saying that it's funny. It's hilarious how, like, people only identify Nazi with, like, Hitler and, like, that type of stuff. And
yeah,
then, like, here, it's almost as if we are not governed by a Nazi, essentially. A neo
right.
Nazi who encourages other neo Nazis and organizations to do what they please and to not be ashamed.
To stand
But they
by.
don't recognize that that is literally Nazi. Like, we literally have concentration camps for, like,
Right.
immigrants and asylum seekers. It's like, no. Like, no. It's
Well,
inhumane. It is
yeah.
inhumane.
There's a million major museums in America. Well, not a million. That was an exaggeration, but
Yeah.
uh, there are tons of huge museums in America for about the Holocaust.
Especially
But
in DC. There's like a big one. I remember
uh-huh.
when I was in eighth grade and I went on my DC trip. We did like a whole week worth of like looking at different like museums and monuments and all that. And we actually went to like the Holocaust Museum. And it was just so sad. And
Oh,
I was like the shoes of different people? Like, no.
yeah,
I was like,
that.
that's
Oh,
so not okay. They
I
also
saw braids, like little kids' braids. That I was like,
No, they also had like the
that
like
was
the
awful.
teeth, like the gold teeth, and they also
Yeah,
gave you like pamphlets of actual like people who were in the Holocaust, and it would tell you like it was like a 3-page thing about the person and be like this person's name was blah blah blah, and then it would tell you if they
yeah.
survived or not and where
Wait,
they
wait.
died, and I was like, oh my god, I was
I
like,
did that too, but it was in LA.
oh, interesting. They must have like, yeah.
But I found that really like weird and tokenizing because we went through the museum um we went through the museum as here's what I found weird about it because so we went through the museum, we had the cards, and then at the end of it you turned yours in and they told you if you died or not.
Oh, they
And they
didn't do
were
that with
real
us. I just found a bunch of
yeah,
pamphlets. When we got to
no,
the end of our
for ours
tour,
it was like a game. It was like and the woman was like very like excited about it. She's like, "Okay, find out if you died or not." And we were
oh
like,
my god,
"Uh,"
that's horrible.
and
I'm sorry.
well, yeah, and like
We didn't do that at all.
most of the cards were like children. Like it was like really messed up and it was like real people like
Yeah.
and like
No, yeah, the
people
pamphlet.
to this day live with that live with the generational trauma of that and there's still survivors. Like it just felt really icky for that to be
Yeah.
like
I
it just
mean,
felt tokenizing and weird and gross and like
uh,
not the way to do that. And also they had a fake gas chamber that we had to go through. We went through we yeah, yeah. Hmm.
God, that sounds traumatizing. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was I was like
That
yeah, I was not okay after that. It was so
was
messed up.
I mean, mine wasn't okay. When I went in 8th grade, ours wasn't portrayed as a game, which I'm really sorry that that was the
It
case
was
for your
messed
trip.
up.
Yeah,
Well,
but we got
I'm not
pamphlets of
Jewish.
like,
Like, imagine being Jewish and going. Like,
yeah.
fuck that.
Well,
Oh.
yeah, it was just like odd for me because, well, apparently, because my great great grandma was like a Russian Jew, and
Mhm.
so like, I mean, I'm not like, our family isn't like isn't like a practicing Judaist family, but I do
Right.
know like certain types of things here and there because my dad's ex-girlfriend was is Jewish as well. So when
Mhm.
I would visit, she would take me to the school that she worked at and she would give me different little pamphlets and stuff. So I actually have a small tiny book from her, but
Hmm.
like, but you know, like that type of stuff is like passed down through like the mom, like the whether, I mean, I guess like whether you are Jewish, as she told me, it's like passed through like the women in the family,
Hmm.
not necessarily the man. And so like the generations that I'm from are from women, like literally like 3 generations of women. So technically, if I
Uh-huh.
wanted to, I could. But just like the thought that I could, and that like I'm pretty sure that my great great grandma, she like emigrated here, and I'm pretty sure it was actually during the time of the Holocaust. I'm not sure if that's
Oh.
accurate, but my grandma was telling me that that's possibly true. So when I went through the museum, I was just thinking about the whole time. I was like, wow. I was like, you know, like, if my great
Yeah.
great grandma was there and she died, I wouldn't exist.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
that's just so,
crazy.
I know, it's just so scary to like think about. And even like for the families that actually were like in concentration camps who lived, that's just like so horrifying. And I just feel
Right.
so awful. But my trip through the museum was very like, I don't, it was very dark. The lighting was like really just like ominous and sad, and I was like, oh god, I was like, this is dark, and it is dark. And so
Yeah.
like you would just like walk through like different things. Like I know that they had set up like different like hiding places where people who were like trying, not like as like an exhibit, not something that you had to
Yeah.
go through, like literally go through. Like you'd be
Uh-huh.
like walking in the middle, and on either side there would be like, oh, like this
Oh.
is like a cart, this is like a train car where they were like carried through to the concentration camp. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, this is just so sad. I was like, I need to walk through as quickly as I can. They had tools that people had touched. They had the shoes that were burned. They had pictures of people on the walls. And I was like, yo, like, too much. But what really made me mad at the end was that a lot of people with their pamphlets, like I saw a lot of them like on the ground, like just thrown away.
Lord.
And I was
Yeah.
like, and I remember like picking some up because I was like, well, I don't want to like tarnish these people's memories. Goodness.
Right.
Like, and like at the end as well, they also had like a, how do you say, like a small little like monument where there was like a fire in the middle, and then around it there were like the names of people who like died in like the
Yeah.
Holocaust that people could look at. And I was like, this is so sad. And we had to like wait there for people to like come through to like the end, and I was like, oh.
Oh.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But now that we've gotten sidetracked again, um yes, stigmas. I think another big one I want to say is the stigma around like women's like menstrual cycle, and like,
Yeah.
or just like not even that, but like the menstrual cycle in general, because
And
I
just
know
body
I've
functions.
experienced, yeah.
I said, and just body functions in general. It's very strange.
Yeah,
It's just
I don't,
things that people's
yeah.
bodies do.
Yeah, I think the one about like periods just makes me mad because like
Yeah.
I'm like actually like whenever I'm on mine, I always get like so embarrassed. Like I always think about like whether it's like I've bled through like my clothing,
Right.
and I just think about like, oh my god, like I'm gonna be laughed at. I'm gonna be like a pariah through the school. I can't. And the fact that like that's even thought about. But what's worse is that it's also stigmatized by a lot of like girls as well, you know, or
Hmm.
just like not even like girls, like people who just have like periods, you know, because like yeah, not not everyone who has a menstrual cycle is a girl, but
Right.
like you know, like people who just have like periods, you know, like or a menstrual cycle, like it's stigmatized by them, but as well, you know, and I think that there's certain people because I know that I think when I was in like freshman year and my sophomore year, I kind of stopped being like afraid to talk about it,
Hmm.
like because my mood change it like would change. Like I would get like more symptoms of like a week before I had mine. And so I think that whenever I would be like at lunch, I would say with my old group of friends that I'm not friends with anymore, I would tell them like, yeah, I'm just like in a bad mood right now because I'm on my period. And people would be like, oh, like, and like, I'd be like, yeah. And so I would try to like, and of course, I thought that like like they were comfortable with me talking about that because I know that they also had periods and stuff like that. And that they probably experienced the same thing, like here and there. Everyone is
Hmm.
different, but I would like talk about it and I'd be like, yeah, like I just like personally I don't get like cramps like that and mine is like a short amount of time compared to
Uh-huh.
like others. So like I would talk about like that type of stuff like in a non-embarrassed way cuz I'd be like, well it is like technically a bodily function for those who have their period. So it's not something to be like ashamed of. But like at the end of the day, I would hear from other people that I would be talked about behind my back by those people because of the fact that I talked about my period. And I was
That's
like,
so
well,
weird.
why? And they were like, well, they just think it's like gross for you to talk about it like that and that you're just so bold for talking about it and that you're loud about it. And I'm like, okay, like if you want to live the rest of your life in shame, go ahead. That's not for
Right.
me. Like I'm sorry that y'all feel that way, but you know, it's just not something that you should really be ashamed of because at the end of the day, you also have yours.
Yeah. I mean, I work for RAP at El Rio, the Reproductive Health Access Project, and
Ooh.
so we talk to a lot of people, looking for different resources, and we are starting to give out period products to people who need them. And, there's a lot of stigma around periods, and the majority of the stigma that I have talked with people about has been from, their moms or
Oh,
other girls. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, there's like, yeah, like lots of stigma around uh there's like stigma around using tampons. There's stigma around just every part of it. Like there's stigma around using birth control for your period. Like it's just weird that there's so many that people make up so many rules and weirdness around body
Yeah.
function that you have little control over.
Yeah. It's just like also like yeah, like I agree like I mean, I personally don't use tampons cuz I don't like them. But um but like even like just like any period product that's like past like people will literally like whisper and be like, "Do you have a pad? Do you have a tampon? Do you have
Right.
this?" And I'm like, "Why are we whispering?" I'm like, we can just talk like normal. Like, you don't have to be loud, obviously. But like even I sometimes like because like people usually ask me because I always have like an extra like thing in my bag of like a tampon or a pad if people need it. So like or like if it's for myself if I need something. But like even when it's like passed to you, like you always have to look for a place to hide it, like in your clothing or like on your person. Like when you're
Yeah,
going to the
it looks so
bathroom,
sketchy.
I know, like literally, like whenever I would like go to the bathroom at school, and I would have like a pad or something to like change. I would like bring my sweater, even if I was hot, and just put it up my sleeve because I was like, oh my god, if somebody sees that I have like a period product. Like they're just gonna look at me weirdly, and I'm gonna be like, ooh, that girl has her period. Like that chick, and I'm just like, it's just so tiring. I'm like, why do I have to hide things? I mean, people literally walk around naked in public. I shouldn't be ashamed. Like, what?
Well, it's also I forgot what I was gonna say. Hold on. Something about okay, periods and I can't remember. I don't know.
It's okay. It'll come back. It'll come back to you. It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back once we're on another subject, though.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Ah! Another thing that I wrote down that I thought would be like time, uh, you know, with the times, with what's going on in the world, around stigma and shame is, COVID-19.
Oh yeah,
And so I
yeah. I
started
wrote that
thinking
down
about
too.
that, like how many people are too embarrassed that they got COVID to like do something about it, you know? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, that's crazy. And then I was just thinking about it, like the people who get bitten by zombies and then
Oh
hide it.
my god.
Like
I
how
love
many
that one. I
people
think I have a picture of that in my phone actually. I was like,
um
oh wow. I was like, that's so accurate. Like,
and so that was one thing. And then I also wrote about how about the why people vote for Trump and that is because of stigma. That's literally because of like classism and racism, like that they and it's like for the poor people that vote for Trump, it's like a self-imposed stigma around classism and like
yeah. It's just
wacky
it's
it's
just
like
sad that
putting
people
yourself
vote for someone that doesn't help their class at all.
it's
That's literally
so
just in it
weird.
for themselves and the rich. That's literally it. That is
I
all.
don't
I the White House is crazy right now. It has always been crazy. The White House is crazy. It's been crazy. Like this whole I remember reading a couple days ago that the youngest child of Trump has COVID, but then
yeah.
apparently he tested negative and I was like, y'all, like what is going on? Like what is going on? No one
Propaganda. Who
understands.
knows what's real?
I
Who
was like,
knows what's
what?
real?
I was like, oh my god. And the fact that Trump was like, you know, not like was opposed to the fact that he was opposed to having like a televised debate rather than like because he wanted to do it in person is like you do realize that you'd be putting many people at risk like you already have and expose
Well,
people,
and
but at the
then
same time, he doesn't care, so it's
and
not
then he was like, "Well,
surprising.
fine, I'll do an online one, but I'm gonna do it at the same time as yours."
He says, no one. Literally. I do not care about anyone. That's basically his stance on all matters. I care about no one but myself and other white men like myself. God. The world is cray cray. It is cray cray.
Yep.
I am so hungry. God. I'm eating Lara bars like nonstop.
I love those.
They're so good. I want to try the pumpkin pie one, but I can't find it. It's making me so upset. I think I'm gonna have to go to Target to find it. But anyways, mm,
um like more on shame for our benefit that like one interesting thing that I I was listening to this person talking about thing like he was talking about like all of the celebrities and stuff like that that have been exposed for being predators and basically and like how all of those people like not all of them but a lot of them had made jokes previously that were about the things that they are being outed for and how like using how like
Mm,
using like oh well that's just humor oh well that's just whatever politics whatever and not and like taking away from what that actually means
yeah.
um and he said that this is why we have what's the word why can't I think of the word
It's a
uh manners. He was talking about like manners. Like this is why we have manners. This is why you're not like we if we see things like this, it shouldn't be just like, oh well that's just their humor, that's just their politics, that's just their this. There needs to like that's why I think there is an important that shame is important in some context so that I mean giving those people so much power like I'm like musicians for instance or people like Donald Trump the boy I don't know how I didn't make that connection giving them power makes it easier for them to take advantage of people and like ignoring all of these things when they happen
yeah.
when they like happened before, like Donald Trump, making comments on his daughter's body. Donald Trump, the like right after he became president, the was that right before he came? Was that right after he became president, or right before he became president? That the grab him by the bleep quote
I,
came
I feel
out,
like that.
which there was much worse in that quote that people don't talk about that much, but
Yeah. I don't. I actually don't remember when that came out. I think it might have come out like around the time that he was being like inaugurated or something like that, or right
right.
after he was elected into office.
Who knows? Time isn't real anymore. Regardless,
It just
uh,
passes by. It just
it
passes.
happened at some
Time
point.
flies, everyone.
It happened at some point. And what was I gonna say? Oh, if people had cared about that, like, but the weird thing is, it's not even so. People didn't care about that. People, were called that just locker room talk. It's just that's just how boys are. That's just how boys are. Like what?
Yeah. One of yeah, like one of the weirder things that came out of that was like women Trump supporters who said that they would let him grab them by the bleep.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that
And
was
I'm just
icky.
like, no,
Yeah,
like
and so
no, just no,
and
no.
so I think that it is
Oh,
important for us to not let things like that go by. Like
education.
having shaming people for being shitty is important. And like also on the other side of that, on the other side of like not just um 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 God, my brain is just goop today. Every time I try to think, I like have full thoughts in here, and then I have like 10 more in the next second, and then I forget the first one. Um, my
Literally.
br- my brain is just broken. Anyway, that's mostly what I wanted to say. Like just that. Well, I mean, right after that, it's like he said that, and then boom, then there's a bunch of alle not allegations. That's not the right word. Um, yeah. So We have a comment that says, astrologically, right now, a lot of people's true colors and intentions are coming to light. Interesting. Uh, yeah. So to catch you up on what we've been talking about, we're talking about how, shame is important and that people need to feel people need to be ashamed of being, racist and nasty and terrible, and not letting things get brushed off as, jokes or humor or just politics or
Yeah.
yada yada yada, because then nastiness happens. And um yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to say on that, unless you have anything else to say, Melora.
Mm, yeah, I agree. Like, it's just not. I just don't understand how people expect us to advance as a society. Like, if we're just gonna be like hateful and disgusting towards one another, like it's just
Well,
not.
I'll be hateful and disgusting towards people who, deny me my deny me or other people who I care about, other communities that I care about, their
No,
basic human
yeah.
rights.
No, yeah, yeah. No, like, I mean, like, in the sense where, like, people who are, like, racist and awful.
Right.
Like, it's like, dude, like, you are the issue. You are the problem that will, like, it's just, I don't get people. I mean, I do sometimes, but I don't know. Like, it's just not okay. And I don't understand how people can actually take pride. It's like when people take pride in, like, for example, like, it's so funny to me when Trump is like, I denounce white supremacy and blah blah blah, but the KKK supports me and my presidency. I'm like, oh yeah, totally denouncing white supremacy. Like, I'm like, yeah, because, like, and I was watching a weird video about the fact that the KKK made a statement about why they support Trump. And I was like, and Trump says he's not racist. And Trump says he's not homophobic or sexist or anything, and that he doesn't, like, whatever. And I'm like, you literally have, like, terrorist organizations supporting you. Like, I don't understand, like, why you think that you're just so above it all when you're
Yeah.
not. You were below.
Oh, that makes me want to go back to the Holocaust thing we were talking about, because I wanted to say really, okay, I'm going to say this really fast, and then I have something that I wanted to
Light speed.
read. Yeah, because we have 2 minutes. Okay. What I was so we were talking about the Holocaust. We were talking about how there's like a billion Holocaust museums, and what I was gonna say back. Oh my God, I have a whole minute. What I was gonna say back then was that we have a bajillion Holocaust museums, but no museums. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. Not that I know of. No big ones about the genocides that America has committed against Native American people, Black people, everybody. That's all I was gonna say on that. And so, because it was coming out day recently, and also because we're talking about shame and stigma today, I wanted to read a poem really, really fast. Really, really fast. It's called Masks by Shel Silverstein, because I think about this a lot when talking about this stuff. Okay. She had blue skin and so did he. He kept it hidden and so did she. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew. And the picture is like two people with masks on. Um, and I
That's
think
so
that that's
cute.
important because, oh, I just remembered we have like an extra minute because we started like a minute late. Okay. Uh,
That's a cute one.
uh,
I agree.
I think that that's really cute, and I think about that poem a lot, that like being true to ourselves and honest with other people, and, just being, brutally honest with who we are, our point of view, just putting all of that out into the world so that other people don't feel so alone. That is why I try to be as openly queer in spaces where that's safe as I can be, because I think it's
Yeah.
important that people know that they are not the only ones, and that I think that's important, and that's all I wanted to say. We have 28 seconds, 26.
No, I agree, but yeah, I yeah. I didn't mean to say like, like we're all being hateful toward each other. I just meant like in the sense to where like everyone's basically just like
Yeah, I got
white
you. I got you.
people and like, God, ugh, Lord. But yes. Anyways, thank you for watching, everyone.